All right, so one of the things that I've definitely, taken note of over the years is the tendency for the strength and conditioning industry to really kind of saturate themselves in absolutist beliefs and behaviors, and everybody is really trying to position themselves to figuring out, the best way to do something, or just determining what is optimal. From my perspective, and from the experience that I've had, I don't think that there's really any room for binary perspective when it comes to human performance or training. I think that everything, generally speaking, works in capacities, ranges, thresholds, and bandwidths. And so with that, I'm going to use a couple of really simple euphemisms to kind of illustrate these points. These are things that we can apply to any facet of training, any aspect of training itself, but we can also take and apply a lot of this to life as well. So if we start out here on this first image, this is a common one that a lot of people have utilized or referenced, certainly not an original idea of mine. But when we're talking especially about stress capacity or stress management, easy way to think about this is thinking about a pool. With this pool, we have multiple pipes that are filling the pool with water, and then we have different valve systems at the bottom. The pipes are coming in irrespective of physical stress, emotional stress, life stress. All stress is going to funnel into the same pool. So physiologically, metabolically, cognitively, stress affects us the same, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. The valves are our personal outlets. So for some people, this is taking the dogs for a walk through the park. For other people, it may be gaming or music or whatever it may be, but those valves are going to be independent to you. The important part of this is understanding that not all athletes or all people are going to respond the same, and they're not going to have the same type of capacity for stress, right? So if we take athlete A, athlete B, athlete A, even though they're receiving the same inputs of stress, athlete A's threshold or capacity for stress may be right about here, whereas athlete B may be right about here. So especially if we're in like a team setting and we have young athletes where the stress panel is going to be up and down every single day, it's important for coaches to recognize that even though the athletes may appear similar, they may play the same position, have the same level of training experience, those two individuals are not going to receive the same type of stress input, whether that's depending on confounding variables or it's just their genetic makeup. So our job as coaches is to understand three things with this. Number one, what are the pipes that are filling the pool? Number two, what are the athlete's capacities for physiological stress? Number three, what are those outlets? What do they look like? And this is where coaches can directly provide things that are going to help to reduce the effects of stress, and then also kind of play that counselor, kind of friend almost type of role where we can help them to develop certain strategies or things that are going to help alleviate their stress pool. Sticking with my water euphemisms today. So if we look now at like the distribution of stress, another very simple way of looking at this is thinking about how we fill up different cups. So if we take 5 standard size cups and we look at 2 different ways of distributing this, on this first line here, we see one cup is going to be completely full and then we have trace amounts in the other 4, whereas this bottom one is going to be pretty much evenly distributed across. When I think about this one, honestly, I think about myself and my wife. For me, I tend to live right here. I'm going to put all my water into one cup. We're going to go all the way in on it, and then I'll move on to the next one. I'll transfer the water if needed. My wife, Nicole, is much better about staying even keel and kind of keeping her hands in different things without having to get, really revved up or come down really far. So these can be reflective of personality types, but these can also be reflective of strategies. For some people, they want to have everything out in front of them and be able to see ahead of time how they're going to distribute things out. For others, they need to experience it first and then figure out how to distribute the stress or how to distribute the workload as they go along. But the case in point here is we can have the same amount of water, the same amount of stress in terms of volume, and we can panel it or distribute it differently to have a different result. These two together, if we come down to the bottom here and this very detailed, highly sophisticated graph of looking at dissonance versus resonance is really what it all boils down to. This right here is what we're all striving for, is resonance, where we have our work, our life, our personal relationships, everything is running in tandem, and we don't have to really think or do too much to keep everything in control. When we're living in more of a dissonant type of lifestyle, everything is chaotic and it's all over the place. So if we think about this as somebody who's, fresh out of grad school, for instance, they're coming out of a world that looks like this. It is not an overnight process to get to here. This is going to take independent management. You're going to need help from other people, and you have to be very proactive in understanding and assessing how these different variables are affecting you and what value they provide for you. A lot of the times, the best way to create clarity is to remove things that aren't needed. Once we get that process taken care of, then we have to look at how we can align our different things that we have going on in our life in a way in which it gives us harmony and we can wake up every morning excited about what we're doing and have some semblance of direction with that.